This is Spin That Back. My name is Rick.
I'm Eric.
And this is our quick review of Predestination, the movie written and directed by the Spirig brothers.
It stars Ethan Hawke, Sarah Snook, and Noah Taylor.
Ethan Hawke plays what they call a temporal agent, which is this sort of like underground detective unit. In essence, travel back and forth in time in his effort to try to capture the Fizzle bomber in mid-70s New York.
One of the timelines, he plays a bartender, and he shows up at work, and a man walks in, and then this man kind of starts telling his life story, and just one thing leads to the next, and then eventually we see Sarah Snook's character.
The Spirig brothers, who had previously done Daybreakers, which I also recommend, wrote and directed this based on a short story by Robert Heinlein called All You Zombies. And as far as I know, the plot of the movie sticks pretty true from the source material. Obviously, with enough extra thrown in to make up an hour-and-a-half movie.
We saw it twice. We actually watched it one day, and then we went back the next day and we rewatched it. One of those movies where it's like an experience. You're watching it, and eventually Sarah Snook's character and Ethan Hawke, their timelines kind of cross. And we're just jumping from one timeline to the next. What I really like was the cinematography in the movie. I think the sets were amazing. Like, it kind of takes you back to, like, it goes back to the 40s or the 50s.
Starts in the 40s.
Starts in the 40s, and then it jumps to, like, the 70s and the 60s, and then all the way up to, like, the 90s. And it's really cool just seeing, like, the sets change from every timeline. You can tell that they put in a lot of work. The set designers and the cinematographer, they did a very good job just kind of piecing everything together. And another thing that I really did like was the time travel effect. He uses a violin case and he turns a dial. Very simple effect, but it's very effective. You feel like they travel through time. And I think there was that one scene, I remember, where he was in the car. It was really cool because it has kind of like a sound wave effect when he travels. And then in the car, he turns it on and he travels and the windows kind of just all bust open, and it looks really cool.
Each decade that the movie sort of jumps back and forth across has its own look. Like, you go to the 50s, it has its own, sort of Norman Rockwell, Mad Men-ish sort of look. It jumps to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and each decade has its own look and feel. If you saw the Spirig brothers' last movie, Daybreakers, you can just see the growth in their filmmaking from that movie to this one. Not that wasn't a good movie. I recommend that one too, but you can just see, like, how much better they got at filmmaking from that movie to this one. This
is one of those movies you can't really talk too much about the plot, but if you're into science fiction or any type of time travel movie, or just one of those movies that has a twist, a very cool twist ending, you need to watch it. Without giving too much away, at the end you kind of see how all their timelines cross. I guess that kind of goes to the predestination paradox, what the film is about, that no matter what you do, you're predestined to always have the same outcome. No matter what changes you try to make in the past or in the future, the outcome will always be the same. It's really cool how they intertwined these stories and how they kind of just tied everything together at the very end.
Yeah, that also goes in part to the editing, the great editing also in this movie, because you're able to follow everything very clearly. Especially the time travel movie like this, it can always get really confusing. It's cool when you watch it and then you rewatch it and you see all those loose ends come and get tied up together at the end and give you like a nice fitting conclusion.
It's one of those movies you gotta watch.
Yeah, buy it.
Multiple viewings. It's one that I would. I haven't bought it yet, but I will. I do plan on buying it. It's definitely one of those movies you gotta experience, and I think it's probably been the best time travel film since Looper.
Or Edge of Tomorrow.
Or Edge of Tomorrow.
If that counts as a time travel movie.
So definitely check it out.
If you want to check out a spoiler review, we'll be covering that. Check that in the link below. Like, subscribe, and all that. And come check out our spoiler review of Predestination after you've watched it. All right?